you. In case there is no chance for the audio, I will start my presentation. To talk honestly, sunflower oil market is not the biggest one. And palm oil market rules by volume. Soybean rules by politics. Rapeseed by climate, and sunflower oil is standing on the crossroads. In India, crossroads is a place where energy is mixing. And sunflower oil is taken 10% of all production of vegetable oils in the world. Thus, other oils are influencing sunflower oil in terms of price, of course. Herewith, after the start of the war, sunflower oil price jumped and gave big support for other vegetable oils. And nowadays, this oil is also depending a lot price-wise from the supply and demand of sunflower crop in Ukraine and Russia. Let's imagine that we go to the supermarket in 2020 year, and 5 bottles out of 10 is Ukrainian. In case we go in 2025, 4 bottles out of 10 will be Ukrainian. And this is in spite of the fact that war disrupted Ukrainian logistics a lot and created a lot of volatility. Russian war took about 4 to 5 million hectares of arable land in Ukraine, and 1 million hectare was under the sunflower seed. In case we take 2 tons per hectare yield, we lost 2 million tons of production possibilities. In spite of this, Ukraine is still taking a big share of export of sunflower oil, but its share decreased. It wasn't like erosion, it was like an earthquake for us. So, during last 5 seasons, the share of Ukraine in the export of sunflower oil dropped by 13%, while Russian share increased by 10%. And next 10 minutes I will tell you about competition on the key markets. What our analysts at ASAP Agri, we have 10 professionals, are making on a weekly basis for our premium subscribers. Main consumer of sunflower oil, of course, is India. And who is selling sunflower oil to India is ruling the market. And historically, Ukraine was #1 supplier, but after war, of course, India needed to diversify suppliers and switched also to Romanian, Bulgarian regions, Argentinian, and you see on this screen that Ukrainian share decreased dramatically from about 90% to only 30%, while Russian share increased to 55%. So in case we imagine the world map, we will understand that Russian sunflower oil origin is going to eastern part and Ukrainian to western part. And next important market, of course, it is China. Historically, it was very big market, but during last years, China is changing its strategy, especially also after the start of war from the side of Russia against Ukraine, and China decreasing the volumes of import of sunflower oil and prefers to buy more soybeans in order to crush inside the country. Thus, first of all, volumes dropped a lot. And if we watch other market which is closer to both Russia and Ukraine, so it is Turkey. After war, Turkey helped Ukrainians a lot because it was a hub importing Ukrainian sunflower oil and exporting further to other destinations. Thus, directly after war, volumes of export of Ukrainian sunflower oil to Turkey increased a lot, but now everything is coming back to how it was previously. Thus, now the share of Russia increased to 77%, and Ukraine still taking a big share of 20%. And this year it was very interesting that spread between Ukrainian and Russian sunflower oil was about $5 to $15, which of course played in the hands of Russian sunflower oil. But at the end of the season, already we didn't see this spread because the volume of offers from Russia decreased. Other importer, Egypt. And Egyptian strategy looks like a lot Chinese because it is very price sensitive market and they prefer to import soybean to crush inside the country. And Ukrainian share here increased a bit from the pre-war levels to 30%, and Russia is playing a bigger role with about 60%. European Union is major market now for Ukrainian sunflower oil, and it's second biggest importer of sunflower oil in the world after India. Thus, for Ukraine, of course, it's number one market. And talking about the prospects, we should tell that approximately we expect that two major powers, Ukraine and Russia, will increase their sunflower seed crops together by 3 million tons. Ukraine could increase it by 1 million, Russia by 2 million. So Russian crop could reach record 18.5 or even more million tons of seeds. While Ukrainian, so far I put like 14.1 million tons, but other experts also doesn't exclude that it could be 14.5 or up to 15 million tons. So we will have hopefully more sunflower oil to offer to destinations in the new season. And using this QR code, you can reach ASAP Agri reports, so maybe they will help you to earn some money, and you're always welcome to become the members of our premium community. And now we will make our lottery, and I will need a person to help me to choose the winner. Could you please? Yes? Could you please help? So come to the stage, please. Okay, so we have Guido Apple from Clariant. And in case Mr. Guido is here, he is welcomed on the stage to receive his certificate. Okay, sounds he is not here, but he's here. Great. Congratulations, Mr. Guido. Thank you so much for your applauses.
Let's have a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, please. Congratulations to you, sir.
Hello. Thank you a lot for sharing this time with Asap Agri, and let knowledge bright your way, and Asap Agri to be your guide. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Christina. I'd like to request Manisha Gupta to kindly join us up on stage. Christina, can we please have you back here? You just gave away a lottery, and we would like to give you a little memento as well. So thank you so very much, Christina, for that fabulous presentation. I would request Ms. Manisha Gupta, Group Commodities Editor, CNBC TV 18, to kindly present a memento to Christina Cerebrecchio. Let's have a big round of applause. That's fabulous. Thank you so very much, Manisha. And thank you. Oh, that was a lovely pose. And Manisha, if you would please join us up on stage. And now that we have Ms. Manisha Gupta up on stage, she is ready to commence with the final panel discussion for the evening. Thank you so very much, ma'am. Please make yourself comfortable. As we have a final business session on how global agri-food leaders are navigating an uncertain market. And this session will bring together global agri-food leaders to share strategies for navigating uncertainty, from supply chain disruptions to price volatility and changing consumer trends. This powerhouse panel will discuss leadership and innovation in turbulent times. And now to join Ms. Manisha Gupta up on stage, I'd like to take the pleasure of inviting all our esteemed panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, get your hands together and please do welcome Mr. Atul Chaturvedi, Chairman, Asian Palm Oil Alliance and Executive Chairman, Sri Renuka Sugars Limited. Welcome, sir. We'd also like to invite Mr. Sandeep Bajoria, CEO, Sunbit Group and Chairman, Globe Oil Organizing Committee. Welcome, sir. We'd like to invite Mr. Angshu Malik, Managing Director and CEO, Adani Wilmar Limited. Warm welcome to you, sir. We'd also like to welcome Mr. Sanjeev Asthana, CEO of Patanjali Foods Limited India and President of the Solvent Extractors Association of India. And extending a warm welcome to you too, sir. We'd also like to welcome Mr. Sandeep Pan, the CEO, SD Guthrie Oil Trading Limited. Let's welcome Mr. Sandeep Pan with a nice warm round of applause. Let's welcome Mr. Sudhakar Tomar, President, India Middle East Agri Alliance and the Chairman of Bharat Subcontinent Agri Foundation. I'd like to welcome Mr. Sudhakar Tomar to kindly join us up on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please do get your hands together. Nice, good, warm round of applause. As I welcome Mr. Arvind Mittal, Group Managing Director, Mount Meru Group. Please do join us on stage, sir. Thank you so very much. And we'd like to welcome Mr. Deepak Kaul, former General Manager, Coca-Cola Bottling Company, Saudi Arabia. Welcome, sir. Do join us up on stage. As we have all our esteemed panelists here with us, and I'd like to hand over this session to our moderator, Ms. Manisha Gupta, ma'am. Please do take this forward.
Thank you so much for staying by. I know it's the last panel on the day and slightly gets tiring by now, but we have a great buzzing panel here to talk about the uncertainties and how the Indian trade really is looking forward to that. You know, one thing we've come to realize, and that is that uncertainty is the new normal. It has been for some time now. And our previous speaker did tell us on how from 2020 to 2025 the numbers have changed so much and perhaps would continue to change going forward as well. So whether it is about China or Russia, Ukraine and the trade tariffs that we are dealing with right now, add to that the policies, the weather and of course the changing consumer preferences, there is just so much on play that all of these company heads really have to deal with. Let's go to each one of them and understand on what kind of a risk management procedure is that they're looking at and what are the challenges that they face and solutions, of course, near term and longer term that they are keeping their eyes on. Mr. Trivedi, I'll start with you first. And we've seen tariffs do a lot. But in the meanwhile, we also have seen currencies continue to move quite a bit as well. When it comes to edible oil as a sector, we are looking at changing preferences. I mean, this is the first time perhaps we've heard that CPO can be used directly as an edible oil too. So, well, there's just so much happening right now. When it comes to edible oil as a sector, how are you looking at changing trends? Whether it's about tariffs, currency, China, of course, being a major player there. What is the major challenge that you see in the markets currently?
The first and the biggest challenge today is to find which side of the bed Mr. Donald Trump has got down. So what he tweets in the night has a lot of bearing in how the markets are going to behave. We have another strong man in Indonesia. He has gone ahead with 40% blending and now is talking in terms of 50% blending. So I don't think the consumer preferences have changed big time. But what has really changed is India being a very, very price sensitive market. Palm had actually priced itself out and soya, because of whatever Trump has said or done, was obviously under pressure with China not buying US beans. So US crushing obviously needed a home for the oil, and that was putting pressure on the oil as well. So India gleefully picked up oil. So palm became the fall guy in the sense that now you have a situation where palm, which was selling at almost $100, $150 premium, has now come down to below soya. So these are things which any trader worth his salt will have to watch very, very carefully. So my sincere advice to all traders is you need to be a trapeze artist and keep track of what is happening in various parts of the world, or what some Mr. Prabowo is saying in Indonesia, what Trump is saying, or what Xi is not saying. So all these things have to be watched and watched very, very carefully if you have to keep your job intact. So that's what we have to do, and that's what we do.
All right. So, well, yes, there's plenty to look forward to, and the one thing is very clear that we're looking at a globalization. So, yes, from one country and one time zone to another is something that you will have to live with. Mr. Bajori, I've known you for years now, and I do understand that the trading patterns have changed, the currencies have changed. How is life changed for you, as in this year, and how are you dealing with it?
Manisha, personally speaking, volatility is definitely, you have to work a little harder. You have to try and understand what's happening, and you have to keep a track 24 hours. So, but at the same time, I think challenges are the only make us more perfect, and challenges only give us opportunity to do something new. So I always take them as that way, So I believe, and this period is not going to last much. I believe maybe next 1, 2, 3 months maximum. Then things will settle down. After all, there is a biological wear tear in the, like we say, palm plantations are biologically tired to produce more and more every year. Same way, I think Trump is going to get tired, because to create so much of turbulence, you also create so much turbulence within yourself. So I think biologically he's also going to get tired, and things are going to settle down.
All right, it's a big hope we have here. Sandeep, I remember, Mr. Bhan, Sandeep Bhan, I remember talking to you on, there was a point Sandeep would say, India will have to buy palm with us and have so much to sell in any case. Those numbers have continued to see a decline as we head towards B40 and B50. How has life changed for you? Is selling less palm a challenge, or you think whatever you're getting, you'll be able to sell in less?
Life was very relaxing. in the
Life is
last,
very relaxed
life
now.
was very relaxing in the last quarter of 2024 and first quarter of 2025. Not much oil to sell, prices were going higher. So it was very cool, very calm life. Buyer calls, you tell them, sorry, no oil. But things changed dramatically after 7th April when prices started making U-turn and unexpected U-turn because it fell very sharply from a high of 4,700 in 1st April and down to 3,800 now. And what I used to say, where will India get oil? Now I'm saying, is there any buyer who wants oil? So there's plenty of oil available for us to sell. Now the biggest challenge for us is to get back the Indian market. So we, now last quarter or last 4 or 6 months, India was importing just 300,000, 400,000 tons of oil. And we need to get it back to 800, 900,000 tons a month. That's the biggest challenge.
Are you spending more time in India?
I am not going to spend more time in India. But it starts from Globe Oil, you meet your friends, most of them, and then have to go to every part of India and get them back into the palm.
Oh, absolutely.
Times have changed. I agree with that.
I'll come back to you with more questions, but Mr. Malik, your first comments as well. With the kind of changes that we have seen, and as everybody, all the panelists until now have said, well, yes, it is challenging, and we're hoping for the best from here on. But looking at the markets right now, what would you say is your risk management strategy right now? What is your investment? Are you looking to increase capacities? Is life as normal, or do you think you've had to make a lot of changes?
See, life has always been challenging, and we being the largest branded oil player in the country, our portfolio is very big, 2.5, 3 million ton if we have to do. Then one of the oil can always be a problem, like palm now or sunflower during the Ukraine war. Now, we always try to see if we can get source of oil from any other place like Argentina. Sunflower oil we picked up fast. We had little inkling and we could mop up big quantity of sunflower that time from Argentina. We have dual cargo, soya and sun, and all our plants, big plants, do process both the oil. So it became easy for us. But then we always try to see the balance between domestic and import. Sometimes imports are not friendly, as you see. Then we push our cottonseed oil or mustard oil and all that. And many of the markets can reciprocate with that thing. So we have been trying to push the portfolio of oil since long time, because we believe that sometimes soya is costly, sometimes sun is costly, sometimes palm. You have to play with all the oil. So whichever is costly, you shift fast to another oil. So I think we have been fast enough to do that. Palm, of course, as prices goes up, as Sandeep says, consumption went down, and we could see that. But we tried to shift in soya. So we could get large volume converted to soya, but not 100%.
Okay. Sudhakar, again, you keep, every time I speak to you in a different country, you do a lot of country hopping clearly. So what is the conversation and what are you picking up from various countries? Are we looking at some stability going forward? This uncertainty might just continue. And are you also looking at a lot of strategy changes as we go along?
So these days I'm living more in the suitcase rather than in the country. We were already suffering from the conflicts, climate change, pandemic, COVID, conflicts in geopolitical tension, now latest being our own country and the neighbors. As if that was not enough, we had increasing trade fragmentation, increasing food nationalism or food security nationalism. And then all of a sudden we had this trauma of the T factor, Trump, tariffs. So the good thing is I'm not up in the night because most of the time I'm traveling. But otherwise I'm like Chaturvedi said, I'm also very scared of this 3 a.m. tweets by Mr. Trump and Elon Musk. But what I have realized that all over the world, the companies which are doing well, and no matter what happens in the food supply chain, even if we are depressed or we are happy, we have to eat. So that keeps working. But those companies who have a strategy of remaining resilient, keeping themselves with innovative solutions, and also being extremely frugal on the cost. These three things, those are able to navigate these uncertain times in a much better way than others.
All right. Mr. Mittal, same question to you as well. As I get in first comments from everybody, what is it that you see as a major challenge right now, and has that made you change your strategies in business?
So to be honest, most of our work is in Africa. We are present in 8 African countries. Our challenges are still basics. So for example, Anshu mentioned soya oil. We know soya oil was cheaper, but in Kenya, which is one of the largest markets in Africa, we could not get soya oil in ships because we did not have the regulation in place. International freight rates went up, so we had huge demand for palm oil, but we could not get enough supply of something as simple as jerry cans to pack the oil and sell it. So we have a lot of other challenges. Okay, you might have, say, in Malawi or in Mozambique, you might have demand for oil, but you don't have foreign currency. So frankly, our challenge is still what maybe India had in the 1980s. But that is not to say that in some ways we are behind. If you look at Zimbabwe, our packaging in Zimbabwe is, I think, 90% in 2-liter PET bottles, which is maybe 20 years ahead of India. So in some ways we are ahead, but in some ways most of our challenges are still the basics, trying to get our supply chain sorted, trying to get our currency sorted. But how are we navigating? Honestly, the biggest challenge is not for us to navigate, it's the consumers. When a consumer has to suddenly price or triple the price, for edible oil, our demand can go down to 70%, like we saw in 2022. So our challenges are honestly still very basic. Thank you.
Mr. Sana, when you look at the market currently, for the longest time we kept talking about the government policies on how we wanted them on the right track. Would you say that's taken a bit of a backseat right now with what's happening in the global markets, or are we still stuck up about the policies in India?
No, so policies are very important, and especially in case of India. So for example, and we use seeds of everything. All of us know that pretty much, that this issue around the imports from Nepal, or the challenge around the duty differential between crude and refined petroleum, or the persistent sort of below MSP price for soybeans, the impact it's having on the production and next year for the soybean, the oilseed crush industry. So there are a whole host of issues, and combine that with the challenge that we face in terms of headwinds that you see in the global markets. So any player of significance, or even less so, the multitude of challenges and the layered sort of strategy that one has to follow, which is around how do you navigate, the volatility in the prices and supply chain disruptions as they might occur, including, especially in case of edible oils, the interplay between the different oil species as to what is driving their premium. And the origin countries also have their own challenges. And then, of course, in case of India in particular, the whole sort of overhang of sort of policy as it tends to impact the industry. Navigating, between these twin challenges of the markets and the policy side, I think is a large issue, and I think, I guess every company worth its salt has to deal with that. And Patanjali is no different. We tend to sort of work around it. It will not work. I think as India itself kind of progresses, through its own challenges around food security, the political economy, inflation, and other matters. So I guess we'll have to pretty much stay with it, and we'll be a lot more nimble around how we manage all these sort of dimensions to the business risks as we deal with, and sort of work around that.
Okay. Mr. Paul, this one is to you, and then of course I'll come back to all of my panelists asking them what they are doing in their companies. But consumer preferences is something that we talk about, and that is changing so fast. The way the whole value chain is changing, the way investments, capacity building, staying relevant and staying sustainable as well. And then we're also, of course, looking at markets, looking at quick commerce. There's just so much changes happening there. How are you looking at a company dealing with all of this and added to that the international challenges?
Listen, I think you're raising multiple questions, so we could spend a couple of hours discussing that. But I will reframe your question, is because we are talking about commodities here. So how the volatility in the commodities affects a company like Coca-Cola, and what do we do at our end to kind of mitigate those challenges and insulate our business against that? I'll answer that. The rest we will see how the time goes. I think first thing that you need to do is you need to go and hedge your commodities, which gives you a vision into the future. There are a lot of market research companies, and Coca-Cola has its own center of excellence, which guides you that how sugar prices are going to be over the next 24 months, or how the PET is going to be. So you start looking at that, and you start hedging against those. So that's the first thing that we do. I mean, listen, you can also say I'm not going to hedge. I'm going to play as it comes, but then that kind of puts your P&L at a huge risk. So you hedge, that's the first thing that you do. And once you do that, at least you have a clarity of the pricing in the future. And then you start working on your P&L to see how do I mitigate these things that happen. So that is the first step that we do. And then we see that when the raw material comes into manufacturing, how do you increase the yield of that raw material? Because every kilo then has to give extra coke out of that. So you start improving your yields, and that is something you don't do because commodities are going up. That's something you do as a usual best practice in the business. You have a division which focuses more on waste. How do you increase the yield? How do you increase productivity? How do you increase efficiency? So commodity price will anyway go up. Then you got to start building buffers within your organization, within your P&L, to see where can I mitigate and kind of counterbalance that increase in the raw material price. I'll come to your last question, the business model which is changing, which is becoming more e-commerce. I think that's fantastic for us because Coca-Cola addresses the youth, and youth is online. They don't watch TV anymore, they watch YouTube. Digital marketing, the whole platform has changed. We are very excited to be in that space because you could also target your communication. You know, pin code by pin code, you can target your communication based on what is the consumer profile. So we're dealing with a territory of high income group. You sell certain SKUs to them where profitability becomes the key driver. And if you're talking to a SEC B or C, you target something else, which is affordability becomes a big selling point for you. So these are the multiple ways, and we are very happy shifting to e-commerce. It brings you directly in contact with the end consumer, and you can communicate, and you could do a lot of things, and a lot of middlemen then get evaporated in the process. So exciting time for Coca-Cola.
Oh, well, yes, you call them exciting, you call them uncertain, but that is what they are. So I want to come to each one of you with one line, if you can offer me on that, on how are you staying relevant and how are you staying resilient in a market like this? Just a line from each of you so I get an understanding. How are you staying relevant and resilient?
As far as Renuka is concerned, the company I work for, we've got two revenue streams. One is from the crushing side and the other is the port-based refinery. So as far as the crushing side is concerned, or the mills, or sugar mills as they call, there I prefer to say that on a lighter note, that we are the sons-in-laws of the government. Because the price at which you buy is fixed, the price at which you can sell is fixed, how much you can sell in a month is fixed, what ethanol you can produce is fixed, how much and what price. So everything is fixed, so there's no risk involved. The only risk involved is whether the crop is going to be there or not. Now the other part is the refinery, which is open to international price movements. There we lock our what we call as the refining margins. So when you are buying New York, then you sell London. And if the arbitrage is available, then it's fine. Otherwise, you just keep your goods hedged and you don't price it. So this is how we try and the only thing which we keep open is about 15 to 20%, which you can play around with depending on your views on the market. As far as the currency risk is concerned, because when you're importing, you're open to dollar. But when you're exporting, you're getting the dollar, so we keep it unhedged. So it's a natural hedge. So this is how we try and keep our jobs safe.
Okay. And are the profits increasing? How are the margins? How do you push that on?
No, margins are definitely, for that we have to keep pestering the government to raise the prices of ethanol, to raise the price of this and that, and plus the 20% if we keep as an open position, depending on how we have read the market. If we've read it correctly, we make good money. And as luck would have it, touch wood, we read the market correctly.
I would say when such times are there, you don't know what's going to happen. As palm was only 300k, 350k per month, India imported for 6 months. And as Mr. Malik rightly said, then this switched over to soybean. So our company is also an intermediary company which stored big volumes in soybean and sunflower. So whatever our loss was in palm was more than made up in the soft oils. So I think you have to have flexibility nowadays. Like in a solvent extraction plant, you should be able to run rice bran, soybean, rapeseed, cottonseed, everything. You should have that kind of a machinery. So same way in any other company which is in services, you should have many options. So that if one or two verticals are not doing well, you can focus on other ones and you can do better. So that's what we are doing, and I think we also did it pretty well.
Clearly, so you can't deal with one thing is what both our panelists have said. And Sandeep, that hasn't worked well with you, has it?
No, ours is
He has two divisions. He deals in all the edible oils, whatever he gets.
Ours is also quite similar to what Mustafa said. We have downstream and upstream. Downstream is absolutely about refining margin. First and foremost thing is you need to have a view about the market. Before you start anything, whether risk management or anything, you need to have a view on the markets which way they are going. So it was in April, everything was moving towards uptrend, was okay, everything is fine. It's only when markets make U-turn that you start growing, how to manage the risk, what is the demand, is this demand going to come up. But otherwise, downstream is more of a refining margin. It doesn't matter price to go up or down, as long as you stay close to your books and you have the margin just lock your businesses. Upstream, it's always a higher, it goes higher the profits. Lower it goes, opportunity goes. Yeah. So it's basically view of the market. That's where you go, and if you don't find the demand, hedge it in futures market.
So when India wasn't buying, what were you doing?
We didn't have enough of oil to sell, so that was...
It worked well for you.
India is not buying, we are buying.
He was a very smart cookie.
Oh, I didn't know that. Mr. Malik, what would you say? How are you increasing your margins? How are you staying relevant? And what is it that keeps the resilience on with the company?
See, for us, our volumes are pretty large. So when you handle such large volumes, you need to have very strong risk management policy because traders can go overboard. So there is a team which looks after the risk management, not the traders. And we keep a watch on it, and two things. One is inventory. We have created a system by which we can switch over from one oil to another oil in less than 15 days. We can process almost half that quantity in no time. That is how we have developed the resources. So to switch from sunflower to soybean or soybean to palm will not take much time for us. And we have almost equal share in terms of volume that we get. Sun is less, but soya and palm is almost same. We have another oil, mustard oil, which supports this entire game of volume, margin, and risk, because domestic oil, we understand that better because we know what we are doing with it. Margin structures are almost same in refining, not that it gives us anything else. But this time we saw that from palm we found traders shifting, buyers shifting to cottonseed oil, rice bran oil, and these type of oil lucky we were there in these oils, so we have processing capacities, so we could ramp up that. So I think switching the oil fast, having nimble stocking, and knowing that these palm prices are not supported in the long run, we had our game plan, and luckily we came out of it fast.
Oh, well, absolutely. So, Sudhakar, this one is to you. And we talk about competition within companies, but there's competition within countries as well right now. How are you looking at those numbers?
So you said competition between the countries. Zero tariff from both sides, so there's no competition as per the setup. So touching back on the previous question, you said the resilience. So I'm just gonna share two things. One is of course on the personal side, how do we remain resilient? And also from the company which is India Middle East Agri Alliance, which is primarily investing, identifying and incubating and investing in agri-food startups in South Asia, especially wherever there is a touch point between the food security between India and the Middle East. So on the personal side, I attended one conference 2 days back, Token 2049, which had 10,000 delegates, and the segment I attended had 1,000 people, and also only the organizers were in the jackets, otherwise everybody was in shorts and slippers. Some founders even came with the children. But they were probably 1,000 times more intelligent than me. So each day, or whenever I get time, I try to learn something of technology. Whether it's like a new way of prompting or some new app or something. That's on the personal side. And as far as companies concerned, we realize there is a funding issue now. The funding problem is there. So instead of going traditional model of standalone begging for funding, we have gone into the blended model, where not only the GPs or the LPs of a fund, also the government or the grants, even the founders, we make sure that everybody's skin is in the game and everybody is equally committed to the cause, so that there are no hiccups.
That's an interesting one. So let me just take that forward and take it to Mr. Mittal as well. So when it comes to, as Sudhakar pointed, funding, innovations, technology, is that seeping in quite strongly as well with companies?
So in East Africa or Africa, generally funding is not a problem. People can complain as much as they want to. I think some of us also like to cry a lot of the time.
Sudhakar, go Africa.
But things, for the last 10 years, overall the industry has done extremely well. We've all grown. You can see that with the capexes and with the investment we've done. Funding is not a problem. What you've got to see is, can you get the right tenor and the right interest rates? We can borrow at 5-6%. It is not difficult, provided you know how to get the climate funds or you know where to go. And as far as technology is concerned, there's always efficiencies, whether it's boilers or whether it's solar or whether it's AI. Nobody's spoken here, but with AI today you can cut down your costs tremendously. But are we willing to adopt it? Some of us talk about AI every day, but how many of us actually put it into practice? We haven't done much, but we are on the way. And I frankly think over the next 10 years, we're going to see a lot of cost reduction, a lot of efficiencies coming, and I personally see a very, very bright future for Africa. But you have to be on the ground and you have to put in the work. You cannot be on remote and say, okay, somebody will do it for you. You have to get the work done.
Mr. Thana, why don't you take over from there and tell us about innovations that India really seems to be doing? Because we seem to be dealing with so many things that it comes to R&D, we know we are a step behind there. But when it comes to innovations, are we taking it on?
So, I think a great question, because trade sort of oriented sort of entire conference. So Manisha, my sense is that I think in these times, Patanjali does so I'll talk a bit about the importance of innovation, but more importantly as to what we do. Being ahead of the game, both in terms of the analytics sort of as they're coming in terms of how the consumers are changing. And one of the big challenges, I'll tell you, that India, which is my sort of place of action, that nearly 65% population between 0 and 35. And how's the youth sort of looking at products, and especially as basic a product as edible oil, or in our case, whether Chyawanprash or biscuits, and it's as basic as they come. And the fact remains that they are the ones who are not only going to be consuming what is offered to them, but they're also the future sort of your parents and household management decision makers in how they're going to go about it. And so the narrative, what you built up, the brand, positioning that one does, the kind of innovations in the product that you do, whether it's in terms of packaging or otherwise, the concerns on sustainability, and whether it's relevant to them in terms of, and they're making those choices, very conscious choices today. So companies will have to be mindful of not only what the consumers are seeking to have, both stated and unstated, and the chatter what goes on in their social media groups and otherwise as to how truly they are responding to what exactly is impacting them. And many a times I realize that traditional companies have tended to respond way more lazily to these events compared to companies like Coke and PepsiCo of the world. So we really need to up our game on that front. And I think that is something I find just incredibly important. If you need to stay relevant, if you need to stay contextual, if you need to stay ahead of the game, I think our ability to respond to the consumer needs. Just I'll take 30 seconds on the innovation bit. And which brings us to the critical point that, rather than getting comfortable in what is it, that you today produce and sell, and there are multiple brands we have which are 1,000 crores plus. But what innovation can you do in a cow ghee, which is like they like it in a particular way and the same family consumes it, or a doodh biscuit or a chawanprash or a honey or whatever. But fact remains that if we do not innovate, there is a multiple companies I'm seeing that which are coming up. Like in our case, companies like Capiva and Forest Essentials, and they are giving a run for money to all the traditional players, selling at price points which are 10 times higher, and still making the impact on the consumers as to what they do, whether the product attributes or packaging or otherwise. So we try and do a lot of work. We are working on it absolutely, but very interesting times. And I think the companies which stay ahead on this one, whether product innovation or the way messaging is being done, I think they are the ones who are going to rule the roost in the future. So all the traditional companies have to be very mindful in how we are addressing the changing dynamics of the market, both through innovation on product side and how we are messaging that to consumers.
Oh, absolutely, very well said. There's nothing like customer loyalty anymore, would you say, Mr. Kaul? Because as said, there are national companies, international companies, regional companies, homegrown companies, and there's just too much more coming in.
Yeah, I mean, especially if we talk of beverage space, every day you find a new beverage in the market. And if you go to an aisle in a supermarket, if you've not decided before going to the aisle what you want to buy, you won't be able to buy anything because there's so much of everything that is coming here. Two questions that I think you're referring to is how to stay relevant. I was with Coke in Saudi Arabia. And Coke, we believe that we create moments of happiness. So you've got to be touching the passion points of the youth. And you've got to also be touching or have a pulse of how the society is changing. Women empowerment is a huge thing in Saudi Arabia. And we work very closely with colleges, not only in their studies and bring them over to Coca-Cola and work with them for 6 months and train them, and then after that they're free to go to the corporate world. We also participate in the sports, in their other events. Water is a very scarce commodity, and you not only have to touch the passion points, you also have to have a social license to operate. And you got to be relevant to the society, and that's how you show that, okay, I'm coming from US, but you know what, I'm going to be part of your everyday life. And once you have the social license to operate, and they start looking at you that you're part of their solution, I think then the brand acceptance starts increasing significantly. So there are a lot of things that happen in and around a Coke bottle, and that is how we work on that. The second question that I've been hearing is gross margin. How do you improve your gross margin? You got to look at your whole value chain. You got to look at the whole P&L, and every number, if you get into the details, it tells you a story. Okay, and that is where you know that how do I change my brand pack architecture? How do I change my channel configuration, from a traditional channel of supermarket and groceries, e-commerce? How do I sell a Coke regular versus Coke Diet and Coke Zero? Because people are also getting onto the health side. and how do I bring more products to address the different time of consumption. You know, now people are looking more on a functional drinks, something that can bring now, when the ladies are coming into the workforce, something a drink that can take care of their skin, something which gives them energy, something which keeps them going throughout the day. So consumer is shifting. You know, they also want functional drinks now, that what can this drink offer? So, and you got to keep on innovating, and Coca-Cola has been innovating for the last 150 years, and that's why we are where we are today. So those are the things that keep on happening every day.
Okay, well said. So this is my last round of questions with my panel here, and Mr. Thana, let me come to you with this. I'm hoping you'll all be very candid now, because what I want to ask you is, Mr. Thana, the last time you lost it in your boardroom, and one thing that really bothers you about business, whether it's about policy, international trade, whatever it is, what is that?
So, sorry, I missed your question. What is it, one thing which bothers the most?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so...
what is that thing that you lost your temper on in a boardroom?
Oh, okay.
Something that really bothers you in the company and overall as well.
No, so I think, so one is a very classical answer that, I might just give, that this is what makes me mad. But what really is most upsetting and one sort of loses temper on, there are some very obvious trends which are so visible in a very commonsensical way. And I think, to sort of put a finger on it, whether, the changing pattern in terms of how the competition is pricing it and we are missing it completely. So I always maintain, just to kind of answer your question with specific this one, as to responding to the competition. Anshu is right here. So, they're the largest, we are number 2. And there are multiple levels in terms of, the response you have to the leadership, or your own response as to it ought to be that you be the innovative, you be the leader in terms of the change which can drive it. I think is something that makes me truly mad, and I think not staying contextual, not staying current, not watching it like on an everyday basis is something that I think the teams have to be a lot more nimble today than perhaps what they have ever been. And I think that is what is most critical, I believe, for the companies to truly respond to change which is happening at a lightning speed.
For us, I think it's the level of compliance that's coming in. If you're buying something from somebody and the person's maybe supplying from Iran, you have to be careful with the compliance. Especially when you're dealing with international banks, you don't know where the arrow will be flying from. And sometimes it's just not sensible. How do I know if, say, for example, Patanjali is working with Iran or not? Is it my job? But as some international banks, please find out what your customer, they should not deal with Iran, they should not do this, they should not do that. It's actually beyond common sense to me sometimes, but then we are not important in the whole ecosystem. The decisions are done in some boardroom, maybe in the US or in Washington DC, which don't make any sense. Thank you.
Any and all kind of insincerity towards the product, towards the attitude, towards the funders, towards the founders, everything.
I only worry about the market share. That is what I think bothers me in the board meeting, because I think the board wants market share, and that is what comes out. So that is on which we concentrate. Bottom lines happens. One quarter up or down doesn't matter.
All right.
For me, it's the customer's expectation. On one hand, they want to see the prices lower also because they want to buy it lower. But on the other hand, they want to see prices higher also. They don't want to. So it's very challenging to meet their expectations.
What we need to do is to buy the cheapest for our client. So we have to see that Sandeep Mahan is selling, because he is making talk and pick the palm oil up. Now we got it down. So now we are the one who is propagating palm oil to everybody. That palm is the best oil, cheapest oil now, and this is the time. And when it is cheap and when there are too many sellers, we try to get it much cheaper for our clients, So that's the policy what we have.
Is the reason both of you sat together? I can see both of you chatting all the time.
Our name is also Sandeep. And see, our job is to give the value to the client. That's what is important. And value in every way. Value of information, value of trade, value of execution, and everything. That's what it is.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't lose my temper. The only time when I get bugged is when you start getting complaints, consumer complaints, that this, your packing is not right, and this is that, and that. And that is the time when I really shake up the organization. And that's once in a while. And as far as what Sandeep is saying, obviously you want to buy cheap and sell at the highest price. But that is only a myth. So I don't get bugged. The only time I get bugged is consumer. When you get consumer complaints, that's it.
Okay, I'll take just 2 minutes more, and I want to understand, this is what you've told us are the problems in the market, but what are the opportunities as well? If you can give me in a word there on what do you think, the kind of market or the scenario or the environment is thrown at you, what is an opportunity that you see for your company coming out from this?
Very, very difficult question to answer as of now, because we are still groping in the dark. But we certainly feel there's a big opportunity as far as expanding the consumer pack in the country is concerned. Because India is changing, and from loose sugar, you're moving on to pack
More
sugar.
organized.
More organized. So that is where we feel is a huge opportunity, which means we will expand our refining base across all our crushing plants. We have 3 refineries apart from the port-based refineries in the hinterland as well. So that is where we feel is an opportunity. And the other big opportunity is northern India has been traditionally eating loose sugar. And that is where we think is a huge opportunity. And at a personal level, I feel when I was handling AWL, late 90s, India was eating edible oil in the loose form. And now, it's all 80-90% is all packed. So I think that's a huge, huge opportunity waiting to be tapped.
Being organized is an opportunity. How do you look at a market like that and see an opportunity? Where do you see an opportunity in this market?
I think there are a lot of opportunities. It's only you should be having an open mind, and there is no doubt of opportunity. Anywhere you look at it, there is an opportunity. In the crisis, there is opportunity. In good times, there is opportunity. It's only your mind frame which matters. So I am always very positive minded. I never have any negative thoughts in my mind, and I think that really helps me. And I take care every day as a new challenge. So that's what my life motto is all about.
Mr. Bhan's opportunity is India, of course, but what is another opportunity?
You said it. Definitely India from 400,000 to take it back to 900,000.
His every answer has been that. I want to take it from
Second thing is-
400,000 to 800,000.
Second thing is the post-tariffs. There is a lot of opportunities other than going to United States and moving to the other parts of the South America and Canada. Besides that, now in the futures market, close to 25 to 30% of open interest trading is done via algorithm. So that's a big opportunity coming. We saw last year a lot of trades happening, but nobody knew why open interest going above 100,000. It was all because 25 to 30% is algo, and algo is a knocking opportunity.
Uncertainty brings more opportunity. One gets more alert. One tries to come out with some solution because you have a problem in your hand. And I think when there is a problem, you try to come out with a solution, and there is an option or alternative. When you deal with consumers, you need to understand them well. And if you can understand them well, then the opportunities can be there. Like as said, e-com. We are also seeing the traction of e-com because never before grocery has been sold in e-com. E-com is growing more in food grocery than any other product. That is their mainstay now. And without grocery, e-commerce is not getting volume. Now they say that people are buying wheat flour, rice. Now somebody asked us, e-com was meant for replenishment. How come they are buying 26 kilo rice bag, 5 kilo oil, 5 kilo sugar? It is not replacement, it is monthly grocery. And that is what is happening today. So that means the consumers are changing. There's an opportunity. If you can take that opportunity, believe me, we are selling 30 kilo wheat, whole wheat in Gujarat. through e-commerce. E-commerce selling 30 kilo wheat, branded Fortune wheat. It has never happened. We told them that there is an opportunity, why don't you do it? They said, okay, we'll do it. And it is doing well.
Wow. That's really unheard of. This is...
So in East Africa or Africa generally, huge opportunities. For example, there are hardly any factories for rice bran oil. Probably 10-20 million tons of rice production, but no rice bran oil factories. 40-50 million tons of maize production, but no maize oil factories. Frankly, if one has the capital and the time and the energy, and I think energy comes first, there is ample opportunity in Africa. But as I said before, you have to be on the ground, you cannot do remote.
I will underline capital there. You have to have the capital.
So, we have $4 trillion in economy. We will go to $10 trillion. I can tell you that we'll have at least 20 companies in the next 5 years, and more companies post that, which are going to put together 1 lakh crores of profit every year. We already have 4. And our expectation, whether the demand for sort of food businesses, for everything, India is the golden opportunity next decade. We will generate the kind of incomes for the population, the kind of profit growth for the companies, the kind of investable pool of capital which the world wants to invest in, the infrastructure that is going to come in. So I think it's a golden decade for India. We just need to stay the course. We need to do the right basic 101 of good businesses that we all of us have spoken about. If we do with that, I think it's the most exciting phase in India's history of last 5,000 years, which we can redefine the destiny of the nation. And this is something which is not a, sort of just a talk. These are real numbers, and this is going to play out. So I feel very optimistic for all the youngsters who want to build a career, for all the people who are not into career building but they're running companies, for all the entrepreneurs who are in the room, who see it that way, both for Asia and as well as Asia and Africa, which is the theme of the conference. I think just an unprecedented good time that we're going to see.
Mr. Sana, would you say that, I've known all of you guys for a decade now and more. Do you think there's a next generation ready to take your, walk behind you, walk with you there?
No, so
I understand entrepreneurs. I understand there are too many startups coming in, and I get your point about new 20 companies, perhaps in a matter of next 2 years itself. But the kind of positive monsters that you have created, you think there are people to fill those shoes in?
No, so I think we'll follow a very classical pattern of how the West has gone really. So there are companies, the larger ones will continue to grow. So right from HDFC to Reliance to Adani to Adani as an overall conglomerate until now you are Wilmar. So, the whole range of companies which are generating that size of profits, I think they'll continue to grow. But what I want to tell you, that there are tier 2 size companies, maybe a different example, Dixon Technologies for example, from 4,000 crores to 40,000 crores and 4 lakh crores in next 10 years. That looks just so real. That's one example. But likewise, whether it's Wari Engineering and, in solar space and in consumer food space, etc. So there is a, full architecture which is there. I think the question is in this whole sweepstakes as to who's succeeding and who's growing. I think that is where all the questions that you've been rightly asking, whether innovation, competitiveness, excitement, risk, what you sleep over, what you get mad over. So India will grow, that's the given. I think the question is the structure of how the businesses are going to evolve, how companies who are going to sort of get towards that final number. We will have 100 companies which will be anywhere between 10,000 crores to 1 lakh crores of profit. But certainly it's a given, next 10 years, 20 companies at 1 lakh crore profit is going to be there. And which means automatically that number of companies which are going to be at tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 and the startup are going to benefit as well.
An opportunity that you see. And a
There's
final
a problem, Manisha, being last in the queue.
You forget the question by then?
No, I mean the question starts in one form from there and by the time it reaches me it's in a different form. So I don't know, should I answer the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 or phase 4 of the question?
That's how
Right.
conversations grow. That is
Or
how-
create my own question and answer it irrespective of what
That's
you're
how
asking.
conversations grow.
So what do I need to answer?
What is an opportunity that you see in this current market?
I think, especially again, I'll talk about beverages because I don't come from commodity market. The market landscape is changing significantly. And the big challenge for us is how to stay relevant. You know, the youth is now exposed to global markets. They want something which is very functional. Per cap consumptions are still very low. What happens in the board meeting is how are we going to be relevant to the changing consumer needs, perceptions, their demand for different occasions of consumption. The channels, e-commerce is becoming history now. Now it's quick commerce. After that, I don't know what next. You know, you think of it and it gets delivered even before you order it. So the paradigm is shifting very significantly and you need to be, so staying relevant with the consumer, with the channel, and also being socially responsible at the same time. Because a lot of now society is asking you, what are you doing for us, you know? And you need to have a license to operate. So how do I be relevant to the consumer and how do I continue to be relevant to the society? I think these are two things and sometimes they kind of come against each other also, you know, and that's when you have to take a business decision that no, this is what I'm going to do. In long run, this is what is the right thing to do. So you've got to sacrifice your short-term advantages sometimes to stay relevant to the consumer and to the society. So staying relevant is the challenge that Coca-Cola always has. And we've done great in the last, I'm not selling Coke here, but we've done wonderfully well in the last 150 years to continue to stay relevant to the consumer needs and changes.
Oh,
only delivery tools. They are not the products. They are just delivery tools.
no, but that's,
The
that's
distribution system is changing. Only the distribution system is changing. Earlier we used to go through the wholesaler, retailer, that route. Maybe that route is changing, but the products are not changing. It's only the delivery system which is changing.
Well, I have to tell you, at 6 a.m. in the morning, I got milk in 4 minutes. 4 minutes by quick commerce. So well, that's where we've reached from where we have been. But gentlemen, thank you so much about talking about what makes you mad, what makes you happy, challenges, opportunities, how you stay relevant, competitive, and of course the opportunities that you look for that. Thank you so much, Raj.
Thank you so very much, ma'am. Gentlemen, for a fabulous session here, the final conclusive session here. And I'd request all of you to kindly step forward.